Hey, today I thought we'd talk about RV essentials. What you need if you bought a brand new RV to get on the road and get going. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is a lot of RV shows are starting. And with those RV shows, some people are going to, brand new RV are going to be getting an RV, and they may want to know what to have on hand before they start that first trip. Now, so you'll know, when you go to buy that RV, they're going to try to sell you a starter kit at the RV location, your dealership. And for the most part, I'm going to recommend you not buy the starter kit. Now, dealerships are different, and so it could be different wherever you're at. Most of these kits have things you don't need, don't want, or is the wrong quality, and you'll end up buying different stuff just 2 to 3 months from now and have wasted a lot of money on that starter kit. So I'm going to tell you the essentials right now that you need for your RV to get started. Then I'm going to have a separate video that's the next level. Okay, I have the essentials. What else might I want to make my RV experience a little better, a little more enjoyable, maybe some additional safety features, etc. We'll cover that in the next video. And then I'm going to have a third video that I'm going to put out that's going to be about what to carry as spare parts. Now, this is for the very cautious. You're on the road. You don't want to have that breakdown that leaves you stranded. There's a few items you can carry in your kit that will help you stay on the road, that for lack of a really cheap item, you may find yourself stranded because it'll take those dealers and those part stores forever to get the part in, and you can have them fairly inexpensively right in your kit. But let's get started on the very first things I think you need as essentials. One of the things you're going to want right away is some gloves. Now, are these essentials? No. But if you're going to post it on YouTube, you definitely want these on to avoid 800 hate comments below. Most of this stuff is kind of nasty. You can just wash your hands, but gloves plus wash your hands. Not essential, but nice to have. Okay, let's talk about essentials that you need other than gloves, which is a quality sewer hose. Now, I recommend you get one of these Rhino hoses or one of these hoses with a little reinforcement other than the cheaper kind, because it will last a little longer. You really don't want to tear in that hose. It can get nasty. Now, I think you should get 2 of them. Now, what I do is I have the better one. I've actually had this for 3 RVs for a long time, lasts forever. And then I have a cheaper one in case you're somewhere where you have a long run to the sewer. You hate to have your whole day canceled because of that. You'll also need your elbow fittings to make sure you go in here. I recommend the one with the clear plastic. Sounds kind of gross, but you can kind of watch what's going on with your sewage dump. In addition, I have a little box here. I carry my sewage component in. It happens to have a little spot. You can put a dryer sheet. Don't need this. The dryer sheet keeps it smelling a little better in here. I recommend you install one of these on your camper. This goes right, just take your lid off your black tank, put this in its place, and then you use this lid, or you can use the lid that came with yours. And what this does is it gives an extra valve between you and your sewage hose. Sometimes, unknowns to you, leaks will occur in your black or your gray tank and build up water here. Now, that could be because you hit a bump, it could be some trash in there, it could be a bad valve. But when you go to take that cap off, you don't have this, you're going to get a bath in something unpleasant. This gives you both a clear access to see if that's a possibility, but you can hook your hose here, release this second valve, and avoid the mess. I call it an essential. All it takes is 1 bath in black water, and you'll call it essential too. Also essential from the very beginning is to have either a good wrench or one of these little tools, because sometimes these sewage caps are hard to get off, and this just fits right on them. Becomes a wrench to take it off. And then I think you should carry various little fittings, because sometimes you need different types of fittings and donuts to make your connectors fit. In addition, you will want something that elevates your hose to make sure you get the proper drainage that tapers down to your sewage connection. There are several different devices that accomplishes this. I've had this particular one for a number of years. Tip you'll never hear when putting your hose up is go in with this end first. Then when you pull it out of your little tube here, the right end will be right next to where you have to connect it, instead of having to mess it around, turn it around, etc. Once you have your sewage taken care of, let's talk about your power for a moment. One of the things you're going to want for your power, right here next to the pedestal here, is you're going to want some what we call dog bones or connectors. That's because you may get somewhere and have only a 50 amp plug. You have a 30 amp camper, you need a dog bone to adjust down. Maybe there's only a 30 amp and you have a 50, or maybe there's a 110. You get the idea. Just make sure you get the adapters to put pretty much anything you may have to what you need in your camper, whether it be a 50 amp or a 30 amp. In addition, you're going to want some nice power protection. Right now I have a Watchdog in here, but Progressive makes a great machine as well. This can be external or internal. I'm in the minority. I like the external because if something goes wrong with it, I can just swap it out, or I can bypass it far easier than you can with an internal power protection solution. When it comes to your surge protector, you really want a full solution, though it's not cheap. There's really only two I recommend. I'll put both of them in the links below with all the other products you see in this video. In addition to the shore power plug that comes with your RV, I do think it's an essential to have at least one extension so you can extend that out a little longer if needed. Why do you need this? Sometimes you have pedestals that are further away, maybe they're in the back and your power's up front, etc. And you need that little extra length, and you don't want to have to be cramming your RV in a weird position just to hook up to power. You got the extension, it saves you. It's an essential. All right, let's talk about water system. One thing you're going to need is a sedimentation filter or sediment filter. Now, notice I didn't just call it a filter. This doesn't take out bacteria or nasty chemicals or any of that stuff. It just basically takes out large sediment, sand type stuff, and it protects your RV from those kind of things. Definitely recommend you have one. You may want a better filtration system. That's on the nice to haves, not the essential list though. In addition, you need some sort of water regulator. High pressure can destroy your RV accessories and pipes, and wow, we make a lot of noise next door. But sorry about it when you're at a campground. This is a regulator. This one's adjustable, so I really like that. That's an old one, I don't use it anymore. Notice it has a quick connect on it. I do put quick connects on all my water stuff. It makes setup so much easier. Nice to have, not an essential. There are other type of regulators you can get that aren't as fancy. Here's a couple here, and you could use any of these. They'll work just fine. The problem with these is they're not adjustable. They're just going to be at whatever low flow they are. Or if you get this one, it's adjustable and you can see what it's doing right there on the gauge. Now my RV comes with a hose on a hose reel, which can be kind of handy, but you will need a portable drinking hose. You have to make sure it's good for portable water. They make a lot of them. People like different ones, but you definitely need a good hose, safe for portable water. Otherwise it could have lead or some other contaminant that would be bad for you, and you don't want that in your drinking water. Now, some people will buy a winter hose, and maybe that's a nice to have. I used to carry one around, but I have found winter hoses are a bigger pain than they're worth. They're expensive, they're heavy, and I end up just keeping them in storage. When I'm in really cold places, I just fill up my fresh water tank with the regular hose, take it off immediately, and then I keep the water tanks warm with my onboard heat, and I have water that way. I find that far easier than messing with those winter hoses, so that's not on my list. But I'll put a link to one just in case. I always like to have a little split here, so if there's only one spigot, I can hook up another water hose, maybe to flush my black water tank, etc. Maybe not an essential, maybe a nice to have, but do recommend it. Now, while we're sitting here, we just talked about sewer, we've talked about water. This one kind of goes to both, and this is a separate hose for your black tank flush out. Now, normally these are orange, so you don't mix them with your clean hose, and they're not normally for portable water, so you couldn't use it as your drinking hose. Why would you want this? Well, there is pressure when you're putting water into your black tank to flush it out, if your RV is so equipped. There is pressure, so there's a small chance, shouldn't happen, very small, probably unlikely, that you could get back pressure and get some nastiness into these hoses. So a lot of people like to use these orange hoses. That way, if that ever happens, you don't have to worry about that getting into your drinking water. Now, will that actually happen? Is this necessary? No, it's not going to happen. Not the way they're built today. It's just not. If you ever see the inside of the tank and how these are done, you're not going to get anything into your hose. So if you use your drinking hose for that, you're perfectly fine. People comment below, tell me how stupid I am. I get it. But I still carry one. I still use it. I also use that hose for other things, maybe rinsing something off, washing something off. It's just nice to have that extra hose that is a general purpose hose. But if I'm being honest, it's not necessary. But I still use one. Hey, another thing I carry with me is I actually carry two levels, a short one and a long one. I use the short one when I'm just going to be around for one night because I don't want to mess with the long one. I use the longer one that's going to be longer. And this is to make sure my rig is level. Now you may be saying, doesn't your rig have an auto leveler on it? Yes, it does. And maybe you're saying, but I have a Level Mate Pro. Maybe you do. But I like to double check it with the level. That way, if it's a little off, a little wrong, I can reset the system, which does happen from time to time, and I can make sure it's dead level when I reset it. I also will go ahead and tell you, Level Mate Pro is one of those things that every single RV YouTube channel brags on, loves, etc. And I bought one, especially when we had our travel trailer. Very handy to find kind of a level spot in a Cracker Barrel or something, except for one problem. It loses calibration all the time. And it can actually make things worse and harder on you than easier. So I end up just going to the level. And when I had my travel trailer, before I had this auto level on here, and it was quicker and easier, and I just left that Level Mate Pro behind. Don't recommend it at all. Also, when I contacted Level Mate Pro about it, I did not get very good customer service. Now, I've had great customer service from a lot of RV manufacturer, component manufacturers. I'll tell you, SnapPad, wonderful. Gas Stop, wonderful. Those programs, ProPride, when I had a ProPride hitch, wonderful. Waggle, wonderful. Level Mate Pro, hard pass. By the way, with this camper, I've really hardly ever get to use it, but I have it in case, you know, it seems a little off and I can reset, but I really haven't had that issue yet. All right, next thing you really need to have, wheel chocks. Gotta have them, recommend them, but don't get the little plastic ones. And that's probably what came with your welcome kit if you got one from an RV dealer or that kit you bought. I just told you not to buy. Get these nice rubber ones. I think there'll be some of these on the Amazon store. I'll put a link below. I think I actually got these at Harbor Freight. I've also seen them at Tractor Supply Store. So you can pick them up either. These are the hard rubber ones. These are the ones you want. Now I have even bigger ones on my very back wheel. On this big camper, I put the ones that are made for semis. Bought it at a Love's Truck Store on one side, just for that extra precaution. And then I have these on all the other wheels. Hey, while we're talking about wheels and tire safety, you need to be prepared to maintain and, if needed, change a flat on this camper. Not all campers come with a tire tool. Make sure your camper did. If not, buy a tire tool. This camper came with what looks like a tire tool, but it's actually the tool to manually put your slides in and out if needed. That's not uncommon. So I bought a 4-way tire tool. Highly recommend you do the same. Carry an air pump with you that can handle the weight of your tires. Meaning if it needs 80 pounds of pressure, you need one that can go up to 80 pounds. I highly recommend the DeWalt, but that only makes sense if you have DeWalt batteries. A lot of people make them, but the DeWalt's push a button, forget it. I did a whole video on it before. Great product. I'll put the link below. Also, obviously, you need a gauge to check your tire pressures with. Now, do you need a TPS system? I think they're really nice to have and can warn you to a lot of issues. But I'm not going to put it on my essential list. I think I'll put it on my safety next buy list. They'll be on the next video. Because of the safety concerns that can come from having propane on board, Gas Stop is an essential in my opinion. They're easy to install. They're not very expensive. Comes with the gauge to help you detect slow leaks and also know what your propane levels are. I can show you how to do that, but my friend Patrick at Travels Delaney already did a great job. So I'll put his link below to that video. And it's just a safety precaution in case you have a catastrophic propane failure. A lot of people will say this is not an essential, and it kind of goes along essential, but these little cones, I have these cones and the little triangles for putting out on the road if you have a breakdown. Because they're such a safety issue, I recommend them. I also use them to alert people in my slide. If I'm putting my slide out somewhere, maybe in a parking lot or something, I use these just to kind of alert people where the corners are, where the stairs are. I find it makes me feel a little more comfortable and a little safer. So, and these collapse down. They're great little things. Highly recommend. Hey, another item you may need, depending on what your setup is something to put under your stabilizers. If you have a travel trailer, under your levelers, if you have a camper. Some places do not let you put your metal directly down on the concrete. Also, if you have those buckets, etc., for putting it down on, some people feel that give you more stability. What I use is SnapPad. Love SnapPad. Great company, great customer service. And what it does is it allows me to put my feet down on the concrete. It gives a little more grip, so it makes the RV feel more solid. So I have it on every foot. When I had a travel trailer, I'd put it on the jack foot as well. It just makes everything so much better and easier. In fact, when we were at Mesa Verde this summer, there was a place where you could pull in and drop your trailer so you could go into the park. Lots of people were pulling in. Big sign, can't put your metal feet down, have to have it on something. Those of us with SnapPads, no problem, quick and easy. A lot of people were looking around for pieces of wood or whatever they could do so they could drop their trailer and go on into the park. Hey, we've talked about sewer stuff outside, but there's something you're gonna need as an essential inside too, and that's your treatment chemicals. What I use is Happy Campers, and I'm gonna explain why, because I think this may change your camping experience. Happy Campers does a great job in that it is an odor controller. You put it in there, I mean, literally, I've never had a smell anything come from our camper, any camper we've ever had. Now, that's because the system's proper. If you're smelling something, something's wrong. Maybe you didn't leave enough water in the toilet. That's what helps keep it out. Maybe you have a leak somewhere. But Happy Camper, highly recommend. You may be tempted to get something that helps dissolve the toilet paper in your camper. And you may be buying RV toilet paper, and you may be buying single ply toilet paper. And I'm going to tell you to stop all that. Why would I tell you to stop all that? Because you don't need it. You don't have a septic tank. You have a holding tank. You don't want your paper dissolving. You don't want it to create a sludge that is hard to flush out of your holding tank. You want solids submerged and pushed out with water. Lots of water. Now, I did a video on the 3 tips to help you with your black tank, and I covered this in that video, but just to reiterate again, we don't use RV toilet paper. Family of 4, we use Charmin multi-ply off the shelf like most people would use in their sticks and bricks, and have never had a problem. Why? Because we follow the simple rules I lay out in that video, which is basically just put some water in the tank first and make sure you're putting more water than solids. And I'm not trying to dissolve that paper and make a slush out of it. I'm trying to let the water carry it off into the sewage when I release the black tank valve. So what I use is Happy Camper as my chemical treatment. You can use what you want. If you want to turn your holding tank into a mush center and a little harder to keep clean, you can do that. But what I'm going to tell you is I think the best product on the market is Happy Camper. So recommend it. Now, I'm going to admit, I have a person I know through YouTube a little bit. We haven't met in person or anything. I know Matt, who has his liquefied. I've heard great things about it, but I haven't had a chance to use it, so I can't really comment or not, but I have heard people say good things about it. I have used the little pods to throw in there. Sometimes it's just convenient, but Happy Camper, highly recommend. And one of those buckets lasts a really long time. I mean, really, just get it off Amazon. If you won't get 2, but you'll be surprised how long one of those buckets lasts. Works and lasts. Keep in mind, this is the essentials only. I'll be doing all the other stuff I love, like my Waggle and other things in the next video, my leaf blower, all the things I think that are great, maybe my inverter, those kind of things in future videos. Right now, we're just talking essentials. And one of the things I think you do need as essentials, because RVs can break, is to have the right tools. I like to have a wrench and ratchet set on hand that will fit the different fittings. I think a power drill is necessary along with a screwdriver and the different heads that fit your camper. Walk around, maybe you have star heads, square heads, Phillips heads, flat heads. You'll probably have a combination of all those. Get a head for each one of those and an adapter for your drill as well. I highly recommend an Allen wrench. A lot of things will take an Allen wrench, so I get the little ones that have multiple little wrenches on it. It looks like a Swiss Army knife Allen wrench. I'll put a link down below. I carry a rubber mallet, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. It's a little secret. You ought to carry some sealant, the different kind of sealants used on your camper. Campers use different sealants. I will just put some down below, but make sure you're using the one that goes with yours, and a roll of a Eternabond tape. In an emergency, it can save you. You rip a hole in your roof with a branch, put down the Eternabond. It'll probably last longer in your RV, and it'll at least last long enough till you can get it repaired. Just remember, once you put it down, that stuff is hard to get up. I mean, really hard to get up. Matter of fact, if it's on top of your roof, probably just want to leave it. If you're a winter camper, I do recommend you carry enough antifreeze with you, RV antifreeze, to winterize your camper. I know maybe you blow your lines out, or maybe you never winterize it because you keep the heat on all year. Have it on hand. If you have a furnace breakdown during the middle of a trip, and you may need to winterize it real quickly to make sure you don't freeze and break your pipes and your pump and everything else. So be prepared to do an emergency winterization. It's a last case scenario, but it's good to have on you if you're going to be camping in really cold weather. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. Here's some that's more unique for travel trailers and different RVs that don't have auto leveling, and that is, I think you're going to need some levelers. Now, wait a minute. I'm going to tell you fifth wheel and Class A people something in just a moment about the same levelers. But you're definitely going to need a levelers. That's part of the essentials. I highly recommend the Anderson levelers. They're just really the best you can get. I have some in the trunk of this thing right now. Matter of fact, I'll go show them to you. And you may want some X chocks to go with that too, that you put between, if you have a twin axle, you put between the tires. That just gives you a little bit more stability. Not going to call that an essential. Just while you're at it, you may want those. We already talked about the chocks you need as an essential. The X chocks do not replace those. They're used in conjunction with. Here's my little tip and trick. It's the reason I told you to add a rubber mallet to your tool list. It's the reason I'm telling people, even with auto leveling systems, get Anderson levelers. Sometimes when you go to level your trailer with an auto leveler, it will lift up one side off the ground. Now this is a problem. It says on all the directions you're not supposed to allow the tires to completely off the ground for safety reasons, etc. So what a lot of people will do is they'll try to reposition their trailer, which is fair, I've done that. Or they'll try to level it, ride up on some blocks or maybe Anderson levelers to get it a little bit more level before they put down the controller. I'm gonna tell you, stop. Don't do either of those. The Anderson levels are perfectly situated to where you can put them under the tires while they're already up. Your tires are up, you just need to put them in there and give it a soft little nudge with that rubber mallet to get it seated in nice, and you can install them after those tires are already up and you didn't have to move your trailer, you didn't have to move your camper. It's now the weight is on those levelers, you're good to go. Now go ahead and argue with me down below. That covers my pure essentials, what you need to get out the door if you just bought or are buying an RV, or maybe you have one already and just don't have the essentials. I'm going to cover, I think, the much more fun list in an upcoming video where I'm going to talk about, you've got the essentials, what's good to have next will make your camping experience best. I think that's the real fun stuff. And then we'll do a video on what spare parts to take with you. Those will all be coming up, so make sure you subscribe, like and subscribe, and that way you'll get those videos as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video, found it useful, maybe find it frustrating, maybe disagree, agree. Please let me know what you think down below. That's how I get better, by getting your comments.